Welcome to GNV On The Move, a show that brings you the latest on the many exciting projects and initiatives that are happening here in Gainesville. I'm your host, Jennifer Smart. Whether you're a homeowner getting a new roof, a developer building apartments, or a neighbor reporting a codes violation, you will collaborate quite a bit with the city's Department of Sustainable Development. Today, we'll meet building official John Freeland to talk about how the city's building division plays a key role in shaping our community. We'll also spotlight Gainesville Fire Rescue's innovative Fresh Fades and Healthy Hearts initiative, which partners with local barbershops to promote cardiovascular wellness. But first, let's spend some time with District 4 Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Bryan Eastman, discussing issues he is passionate about, including how zoning changes can lead to more affordable housing and boost economic development. Bryan Eastman was elected to the Gainesville City Commission in 2023. He has many policy interests, and at the top of his list are issues around housing and economic development. Commissioner Eastman, welcome back to GNV On The Move.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
So we're going to be looking over the city's comp plan over the next few months, and I wanted you to start off by explaining to us what this is, what its purpose is, what goes into it, all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So our comprehensive plan is something that every city and every county in the state of Florida is required by state law to follow through on. And really this is taking a step back. A lot of times on the city commission, what we're talking about is one procurement that's coming forward or a rezoning or a particular ordinance that's coming out. But this is really the one opportunity we have to take a step back and say, where do we want our community to be in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Every city can determine what that length of time looks like. So for us, it'll be a 10-year plan that we're looking at. But where are we planning on growing? What is our vision for our community? How do we want our parks to look? How do we want our parks to be interconnected to each other? How do we want the buildings and the facades to front onto the street? What streets do we want those to go into? It's a document that has a lot of legal oomph to it, but is more kind of broad and more open for interpretation, so that you can really think through what do we want our community to look like.
So when is the last time that our comp plan was updated?
So we do comprehensive plan amendments where we might change something here or there, like we did a change in our single family zoning. That's something that I brought forward a year or so ago. But really our large comprehensive plan update was about 2013, so 12 years ago.
Okay, so you're talking about something that's 12 years old. So a lot of changes have happened in Gainesville in 12 years, and changes not only in the way the city looks, but the way we live in the city, the way we inhabit it. So what are you looking at when you read this? What are you seeing about, here's where we really see a gap now, here's where something super has to be updated?
Well, I guess a couple of things. One, the city of Gainesville has been remarkably consistent. We kind of know who we are. We've always been a community that cares deeply about multimodal transportation. We've always been a community that cares deeply about our environment. We're always a community that cares deeply about the arts and cultural scene. This new comprehensive plan has much more of a focus on equity and making sure that we're reaching out to East Gainesville or low-income areas of Southwest Gainesville, and that we're making sure that we're not leaving them out as our entire community comes forward. But also, we're a community that's always changing. I mean, we have come from being a very small college town, and I think many of us view ourselves as a small college town, which to a large extent we are, but we're also the 13th largest city in the state of Florida. And one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Florida. About 4,000 people move to our community every single year. And so as we're growing, cities change as they grow. How do we grow while still retaining those things that we love about our city? That environment, that culture, that affordability that has made Gainesville such an important part of a place that we love living in. How do you keep that, making sure that as we are changing, that changes along with it?
And so when you've looked back at the previous document, the one that's being updated, do you see areas where we had real wins and we've achieved what we set out to do 12 years ago?
I actually think our last comprehensive plan, I've spent the last couple of days really digging through everything. And you have things like our multi-use trail system has really increased exponentially. We had a lot more multimodal bike lanes, things like that have gone into there. There's a lot of focus on how can we update our zoning code to give more flexibility for businesses, give more flexibility for homeowners on their private property. And I'd say our planning department has done a tremendous job. We have something in the city of Gainesville called a form-based code, which regulates more how does a building look from the street. So making sure that the building is looking out over the street, that there's not large parking lots with buildings back. But what it doesn't regulate is what you do inside of your building. That's your building, you can do what you want with it. So it's we have more mixed use than we've ever had before. We have more retail in more places. We've allowed more flexibility. And that's something that hopefully we'll continue to dive into and allow more flexibility for business owners and for homeowners to decide what works best for their property at that time, while recognizing that, the way that we build and the way we build along the streets and the way we build in our communities in terms of where buildings look, how they look, where they're going, has a huge impact. And so we've changed as really the urban planning world has changed and has started to see what really is important for a city to regulate for private property owners and what is less important for us.
And so when it comes to development and growth for homeowners, for building homes, for businesses, for economic development, what are some of the tools that you see that you want to have worked into this plan, or that you and your fellow commissioners will be discussing, that could allow us to move forward in that direction, particularly affordable housing issue and downtown development?
Yeah, I mean, so all of these things are about a push and pull, right? I mean, you want someone who wants to do something interesting with their property, wants to do something great with their property, to have the flexibility to do it. But you also want to make sure that you're regulating people that are doing things that could hurt the community, that are trying to build with low quality materials, that are trying to do stuff that might make sense for them as a business owner, building cheaply, building right up to the street or too far back from the street, but wouldn't benefit the city as a whole if you have lots of people doing that same thing. And so it's always this push and pull. I mean, I think our downtown continues to improve. We've had new businesses come into downtown. Really, for the first time, when you go downtown, you go down First Street, that main strip looking at the Hippodrome. For the first time since probably the 1960s, we have businesses all along there. There used to be empty parking lots going from where the Hampton is now, where the Hyatt is now, going all the way up and down there with empty business on both sides. That's an entirely activated street where people can go up and down. We need to continue to build on that. How are we going to expand that out beyond that urban core area, across Main Street, places like that? And so that's really what the comprehensive plan looks at. It's not necessarily zoning. It's not saying, well, we'd like a 15-story building here, an 8-story building there. It's more what is our overall vision for where we want to focus our resources and focus on that flexibility and having the things that we want and where we want them.
And when we're pulling out areas that we want to focus on, Southwest Gainesville, I understand, is a place that you're very interested in seeing some changes. What are your ideas there?
Well, I mean, Southwest Gainesville it's just been overlooked. I mean, for many, many years, we've talked a lot about East Gainesville. We need to continue to work in East Gainesville. We're working on our E-Heady site to try to improve economic development out there. We're improving G-Tech to have an incubator space out there. We've put a lot of investment into our parks in East Gainesville. And so hopefully that will continue and make sure that's strong within the new comprehensive plan update. Southwest Gainesville was really annexed into the city right about the time our last comprehensive plan was put into place. And so it's relatively new within our city, and there's large areas that are just zoned that allow only 3-4-story tall wood frame apartment complexes. So that means there's huge swaths of Southwest Gainesville where there's going to be food deserts because we haven't even allowed a grocery store to go in there. There's large areas that aren't walkable, that don't have sidewalks, that don't have the infrastructure that they need. And like I said, it's a relatively new part of our city, and it probably needs to get the focus and attention that every other part of our city does.
And you were also very vocal in pushing forward the lot size reform,
Yeah.
these missing middle homes. What do you see changing there? Have you seen some results from this yet? And what do you hope to see sort of long range?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we had for many, many years in the state, in the city of Gainesville, this is true really across the United States, where we adopted more national standards of having very, very large lawns with very, very wide lots within them. And all of this is great. The problem is that as your city continues to grow, you continue to grow out, and then the cost of that land goes up. The cost of the houses on them go up along with it. So the only way to really get the cost down is to give people the flexibility to decide what size lot they want. What you've seen is that people over time, they're not looking for these big lawns that you might get in old 1940s, 1950s style houses. Even you see the new developments that are coming forward, new houses coming up. People are willing to trade off having a slightly smaller lot if they can save a bit of money on housing, as housing costs have gone up. And so Gainesville is really the leader in doing lot size reform and trying to just get rid of some of those, in my opinion, erroneous, not very useful regulations that raise the cost of housing up and force people to live on larger lots than what they were interested in. Our lot size minimums were about 0.28 acres from before, which is almost double the national average for new houses that were coming up. That's just not the kind of home people were looking for. There's lots of amenities people do want in their houses. I mean, people want larger bathrooms than they wanted in the past. They wanted more electric sockets. There's certain things that people want in their houses, but a large yard is just not one of those things. And so we gave people the flexibility that if you want a large lot, that's your right. You can build a house on a very large lot, but if you'd like to do something a little different, if you'd like to put 2 houses on 2 smaller lots, that what previously would have only allowed 1 house, you're now able to do that within the city of Gainesville.
I'm interested too in how you manage expectations on both sides of this argument, right? Because there's the people who don't want to see a change, and you have to help them come around to the idea that it's not going to be this instant reformulation of a neighborhood they've come to know and love. And then you have the people who love the change and they want it immediately right now, and they think everything's taking too long.
Yeah.
So how do you balance this? How do you educate the community about these sorts of changes that are part of this larger high-level picture of our community?
I mean, zoning and planning is all about looking 20, 30, 40 years down the road. You could change everything tomorrow and you might not see any changes within 5 to 10 years. But when you look 30, 40 years down the road, changes that might have happened within the regulations 20, 30, 40 years ago, you'll start seeing there. It's sort of like I think of it as sort of like a groundswell and a wave. Like you'll have wind swells on waves, so you get these choppy little waves, or you might get a groundswell, which is a very long wave that might come from side of Africa, and you'll get these beautiful, beautiful waves that will come down. Having more long-term focus on this, that is what ends up making a change 20, 30, 40 years down the road. But yeah, it's not going to change neighborhoods tomorrow. It's not going to change them, within a week, 2 weeks, but eventually it does make that difference. And the reality is that cities change. That's what's great about them. That's what's infuriating about them. Everyone has their favorite restaurant that they ate at 20 years ago. There's, Burrito Brothers. There's these places that we love, but eventually the places that we love close down and great new places open up. And so the question is not, can you hold a city in amber? Because that's impossible. It's when you're changing, how do we change into a city that we want to be? One that is affordable, that continues to allow artists and arts and teachers and police officers and firefighters to live within our community and not be forced out of that community? How do you have, green spaces that are integrated into all of our neighborhoods and into our parks? How do you have great park spaces that you love to bring your kids to, that are beloved park spaces? I mean, these are the kind of things that we have to be thinking about now, so we can have that, for the next generation of people.
And I think Gainesville is getting a reputation for being a community that has balanced all of these things and is a desirable place to live. And are we on the cusp of really becoming something bigger and more prosperous, more interesting, because people are coming here and the managing of where we are and how we live is going fairly well?
I mean, that's how I got to Gainesville. I didn't grow up in Gainesville. I've always known Gainesville as someone who's been a musician and played in a bunch of bands. That this is the home of Tom Petty and Against Me and Less Than Jake. It's the place where you can go see bison running around on Payne's Prairie. It's a place where you can find great places to go hiking within a 5-10 minute bike ride. It's I think I think there's more and more people that are starting to realize that Gainesville is that. You're also seeing more and more climate refugees as insurance prices are going up near beach towns, as sea level is rising, as hurricanes get stronger. You're seeing a lot more folks from Miami that are picking up and coming into Gainesville and seeing what Gainesville is. And I think the thing with growth as a community, as I said, is there's only so much you can do about it. You can't stop a city from changing. You can't stop a city from growing. It will grow. The question is will people be able to afford to live in it? And can you continue to keep that in there? And sometimes that means being honest with yourself about what that growth looks like and planning for it, as opposed to trying to put your foot down and stop it, or even trying to put your foot on the gas and say, we want to get all these people to move here. It's just, I think, being realistic about what that is and how you can make that work for the benefit of the overall community.
So once you and your fellow commissioners are done with this comp plan,
Yeah.
and it's updated for another 10 or 12 years, looking down the road, say to 2040, what does Gainesville look like?
I mean, I would hope to see, more small scale infill that's existing, hopefully within our urban core. I'd love to see South Main Street continue to grow, the areas near Depot Park. We spent a tremendous amount of money to improve Depot Park, to make that road work well. How do we make that into a place that people can live, that you can continue to have cool, funky places like South Main Station, like the Knot. Hopefully we'll have better connections between us and the University of Florida. So that it's more of a seamless transition as you're getting from UF into downtown, where there's businesses, restaurants, housing all across that area. We need to continue to be protecting our green space and our ecosystems, where we have where some of the areas that are now kind of informal trails, or they might just be in green space. How do we make sure that those are protected for future generations and opened up for trails? And we need to continue to be working with East Gainesville and making sure that they are getting the investments that they need, and that we're not starving those areas for the investments that other places get. So how do we improve the roads, improve the economic development, create more opportunities, not just for folks that are living in West Gainesville, but in East Gainesville, and then continuing to grow Southwest Gainesville so that there is more mixed use and interconnected communities as opposed to apartment complexes and large roads. And that will take place over the next 20, 30, 40 years.
All very holistic.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Thank you, Commissioner Eastman, for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jen.
After the break, we'll learn more about the Department of Sustainable Development with building official John Freeland. His goal is to support and help anyone who's looking to start or grow a business, construct a home, or plan future development.
Riding the RTS bus with Mom was great. The friendly greeting from the driver, beautiful memories of holding Mom's hand. I loved the bracelet she made, the excitement of watching the world go by. Who would have thought that I would continue that tradition through college, getting to class hassle-free? And now that friendly driver and I are a bit older, as I get to my job stress-free, I'm reminded of my mom's hand on mine. Still wearing that bracelet, still riding the bus. Growing up RTS.
John Freeland is the City of Gainesville's building official. There is one building official in each jurisdiction. The building division is the largest of all the divisions in our Department of Sustainable Development. John has been with the city for 12 years. John, welcome to GNV On The Move.
Thank you very much.
So first, tell me a little bit about what you do as a building official. What is your day-to-day like?
So our office essentially issues building permits and does inspections on buildings as they're being constructed. We sort of oversee the regulatory environment that surrounds building, and we work with our neighbors to answer questions and be a resource on building and development issues.
So we just had Commissioner Eastman on, and on his way out, he was saying you have a lot of interesting stories about what this job is like. Tell us a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of interesting stories. As people build homes and do projects within the city, they all have a story. And it's always a very personal endeavor to say build a home or anything like that. And we've been able to help folks navigate that process, and been a wonderful experience.
You know, a permitting process is a challenge. A lot of people, when they have a major project, they're not familiar with all of the steps that have to be followed. So what are the things that the city has in place in your department to sort of coach people and instruct them through what it takes to put on a roof or build an accessory dwelling unit or any of these things that people want to do in their homes?
So we've developed a very robust online system that will walk folks through kind of the process of permitting. We're still available, though, for walk-ins, and we're a resource for questions, anybody that wants to ask anything.
And what are some of the questions that you most frequently get from people?
A lot of the questions surround, what do I need a permit for? Do I need a permit for an addition or a roof? The different improvements that may or may not require a permit. There's a list of frequently asked questions, and those are really the ones we get in person most often as well.
And so what road do you start down if you don't get a permit and you're doing work that should be permitted?
Well, it can be picked up. A lot of times it's picked up and reported by the neighbors and that sort of thing. So it's always better to get a permit up front. If that doesn't happen, or they get tangled up in the process somewhere along the way, it's our goal to work that out and to figure out how to facilitate the project being compliant with code, and also as no more expensive than it needs to be for the individual building it.
So another thing that interests me about the Department of Sustainable Development is the whole idea of dangerous buildings and how you have these tools to protect public safety and make sure that buildings that are neglected or derelict are handled properly. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, well, we have essentially we respond to complaints either from the community, from neighbors about buildings that may be in disrepair and that sort of thing. We inspect those buildings. If we do see something that's neglected or needs to be addressed, we notify the owner. We attempt to work it out with the owner for a plan to bring the situation back into compliance. In some cases, it might be to demolish the building or something like that. Code enforcement violations definitely can have a very negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood. When people buy a home, they also buy into the neighborhood. They buy into that sense of place. And so if there is a violation on a property that's adjacent to theirs or even in the same neighborhood, it can have very much a negative impact on their home value.
It's interesting to me because we just spoke with Commissioner Eastman. He and his fellow commissioners have a role in guiding the big picture of the city. But when it comes to sort of the boots on the ground, shaping the way neighborhoods and business districts develop, this is largely what your department's doing.
It is. Essentially, the vision and the guidance that's given to us by the commission, we make sure that those things are done in the field. When a project's approved, we ensure that it's built the way that it was approved. And that's largely to ensure that the utilities function correctly, the road network connects where it's supposed to, and the project fits in and it's an asset to the neighborhood.
And doesn't pose any danger and is built exactly the way that it's supposed to be built.
Right.
You are also active with the advisory boards. The Department of Sustainable Development has some really important advisory boards that tell our commissioners sort of what is recommended. And talk about those. You have historic preservation, okay. You have plan board.
Yeah, so the plan board kind of looks at the legal framework of how and where development occurs. They do a lot of work with the land development code, which kind of dictates zoning and where things can be built, how large, how tall, those sort of things. They deal with mostly the overall issues. The Development Review Board itself reviews specific projects to make sure that those projects are coming in compliance with the code and with the conditions that the project was originally approved under, and basically evaluates the impact on existing neighborhoods and those things, how that works. The Historic Board, the name kind of tells itself. It allows for a board to weigh in and have input on the significance of a particular project when those properties are maybe impacting some historical resources, something in Gainesville's traditional neighborhoods. The boards are a very important voice for the citizens. It's a way that local citizens can be on a board or have direct input into the board. And this is a way for voices to be heard before those projects come before the commission. The board is very important in that it allows individual citizens or the board members themselves, who are all local members of the community, to have a say on development and how and where it's occurring within our city.
And what are some of the interesting conversations that you hear in these types of board meetings?
A lot of them have to do with Gainesville's had a lot of high-rise development and very tall buildings. A lot of times that is in opposition to some of the existing neighborhoods when, a large tall building goes up right next to existing single-family neighborhoods. So there are rules on how tall something can be built where. There are a lot of conversations surrounding traffic impacts. The large student housing developments and multifamily in general does carry a lot of transportation impact that affects the neighborhoods that they're in. So there's always conversation around that. Change is inevitable, but a lot of times people are kind of uncomfortable in it. Your local boards are a way of expressing your opinion.
Gainesville has changed a lot. I grew up here, moved away for a long time, came back, and some of what you're saying, these high-rise buildings in particular, were a huge difference from what I remembered. So when you have been on the job here for these 12 years or so, what have you observed about the trajectory of change in Gainesville?
So there's been an incredible amount of growth in those years. Every year, inevitably, we add thousands of housing units in the form of apartments, but also single-family residential neighborhoods. There's a lot of development that is occurring on what we refer to as infill lots. So these are properties that may or may not have been blighted, or they're old, or just vacant for whatever reason. Those are actually in high demand. Our city is essentially built out, And so everything that's new growth is occurring on the footprint of where something else used to be.
But then we have the gentrification issue that we have to be aware of with some of these projects as well.
Well, that is true. That is true, and there's a voice that needs to be heard on those issues. So the where development occurs, there's a lot of conversation that surrounds that, and all the neighborhoods that are in close proximity to UF have those same conversations going on.
So before we leave, because we're about to wrap up, what is the one thing you would want people to take away maybe from this conversation about the building division and what they should know?
So our department is here to help. We're very much committed to the city of Gainesville. It's interesting to note that even during the recession, building was very, very active in Gainesville, even when it wasn't nationally. Alongside the University of Florida, our town has a ton of great employers, a huge sense of civic pride, and Gainesville is a good investment. That's one of the things that drives development here. Dollars invested in Gainesville typically return very well. And it's because of the high quality community, a great infrastructure, great utilities. It's a great place to build.
Very well said. John Freeland, our building official, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this glimpse of the good work we're doing here in the city of Gainesville. We leave you now with a look at the city's Fresh Fades and Healthy Hearts initiative. Gainesville Fire Rescue recently completed the first phase of this pilot project, designed to connect barbershop clients with health resources. Join us again next month as we take another look at GNV On The Move.
Fresh Fades and Healthy Hearts started earlier this year, and it's a pilot program to train barbers to take blood pressure of their clients in the chair. Barbers have been long-standing pillars of communities for a very long time. They're a place where folks come and share a lot of information, have trusted conversations, and so it's a great community space to do that.
The relationship between the barber and the client, it goes pretty deep, to a point now that we're doing blood pressure. I've been doing it for a while, and I just think it's perfect.
We have trained quite a few barbers at this point, and it's been mostly about what high blood pressure is, what the numbers mean, skills and tips to reduce high blood pressure. Reaching men was really important in this initiative because we know historically that men are less likely to exhibit what we call help-seeking behaviors. So that's things like following up with a primary care doctor, going to the doctor. So we wanted to go into spaces where we know men are already at and having some of those conversations already.